The opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cable 14, its sponsors, or its shareholders, Cogeco Cable, Shaw Cable, and Source Cable Limited.
Welcome to a new season of The O Show. I'm Laura Babcock and joined by Loren Lieberman. We'll talk to him in just a second. But coming up on the show, we've got a lot to talk about, including breaking news about what's happening with the teachers in the province. We're also going to talk about a lawsuit that's been filed against the Hamilton Public Board. We're going to talk about the casino, the big rolling of the dice here in Hamilton. 15 years later, we're talking about maybe another referendum on that. And we're going to get into the two-way street debate that doesn't ever seem to go away, plus what happened at the Lock Street Festival. And of course, we've got the way to goes at the end of the show. So before we get into all of that, let's say hi to Loren. Loren, how you doing?
I'm all right. How about you?
Good. How was your summer after the deluge of rain that was the Festival of Friends?
Yeah, well, I still just spend my days crying, but it'll pass with good medication.
Well, you seem like you had a good spirit about it in the paper. You said, you know, the only thing you felt really badly for was the musicians and some of the people out there who were trying to make some money. But, you know, it's rain. What are you going to do?
Some days you're the bug, some days you're the windshield.
Well, I went out there and I thought it was great. My kids had a lot of fun, so there you go. I'm, you know, had a good summer. I saw you a couple of times. I did on the way over, though, kind of bang my lip into the car door, which wasn't fun. I know.
That's what you're calling collagen.
Yes, I had to get ahead of you making a crack about my Meg Ryan lips. Yeah, it was an accident, I swear. Okay, we had a lot going on in the summer, and we had a chance to have an Opinion Fest, Part 1 and Part 2, where we kind of caught up on the stories over the summer with the Opinionators panel that's here on Thursday nights on Cable 14.
It was nice to meet them.
Yeah, yeah, we'd never met them before. No. It was nice to debate them. We covered a lot of stuff that went on, and also we did a second portion of that show, which was looking ahead to the fall. And so some of those topics are on our radar today, and of course all the new ones that I mentioned off the top of the show. So let's get first to the news, the breaking news. This was something we talked about on Opinion Fest, and that's regarding the teachers and the province, minority Liberal government, of course, saying it was going to put through legislation that would have a 2-year pay hike or pay freeze rather for the teachers, as well as they wouldn't be able to do any striking for those 2 years. So this was not popular with teachers, as we know. Maybe we saw a reflection of that in the results of especially the KW by-election that happened. McGuinty still didn't get his majority government, but the legislation has now passed today. Loren, what do you think about it all?
I think that Hudak did the right thing, and I think that Andrea Horwath did the predictable thing for the NDP. Austerity measures at a provincial level are more than appropriate, and I don't think there's a whole lot of public support for raises for teachers. Yes, everybody loves and respects teachers, but the public sector needs to have a little time out here as well. KW was not just as simple, though, the results in that by-election. The NDP threw everything they had at it, and good for them. They took it. Yeah,
it was strategic, of course. Yeah. They had a beef with what the McGuinty government was trying to do in terms of
and a great
preventing the strike.
They
and
did.
A great candidate.
Yeah, they really did.
So strategically, it was a wise move for them. And Hudak supported, as I heard him today saying, you know, he was hoping that right across the public sector, including MPPs, there would be a freeze on wages because of austerity measures at the provincial level, but he'll take what he got. So now, of course, the teachers are saying they will fight this all the way up to the Supreme Court. So this is not over, but the teachers are in school and the legislation is passed. Now let's get to the first topic we want to talk about, which is a lawsuit that's being filed against the Hamilton Public School Board. And before we get into the argument, a new feature here on the O Show is Only the Facts. We're going to have Loren tell you some of the facts behind what we're debating. Loren, go for it.
I don't think we argue. I think we debate.
Well, sometimes we argue. It depends.
New Bill 13 anti-bullying legislation promotes all forms of diversity in schools, and the new gay equity policy is certainly a part of that. So what we're talking about today is a father who is a dentist in Smithville, whose kids go to Gordon Price, which I believe is on the Mountain and Elementary School, has asked that his children not be subjected to instruction that is counterintuitive to what he believes as a Greek Orthodox Christian.
And he's got some support with this lawsuit, right? It's coming from the Parental Rights and Education Defence Fund out of Toronto that are supporting him with this. Now, when looking at this, it's not really surprising that there's a lawsuit, because this was controversial legislation. It was controversial because some people felt that putting in the equity for gay rights right in there with anti-bullying legislation was too far. There's a lot of opposition to it. And as soon as it's now in place, it's only, a couple of days old, we have a lawsuit already started. And of course, as I mentioned, it's being financed by a group in Toronto. As I understood the story, and Loren, you had a chance to hear an interview on the Bill Kelly show today, and maybe you've got a little bit more on it. But this is a parent who holds religious beliefs, a Christian, and wants to raise his children according to the Bible, subscribes to his interpretation of what the Bible says about being gay and about the act of homosexuality, but it's also about other things. He wants to have a reasonable accommodation, he calls it, from the school board whenever they're going to be talking about curriculum that is contrary to the way that he wants to raise his children according to the Bible. He's asked the school board a couple of times to get this accommodation, and they haven't given it to him. And as I understand the school board's response, they're saying, well, on a couple of things, it's okay perhaps to let parents know when something's coming up, and there's clear protocols around sex education on this. But when it comes to something like equity, if these students are being pulled out of classes when the topic of being gay comes up, then how do the gay children in the school feel about it? That's where it's actually harmful to the other students. So that's their position as I understand it. And I have to tell you, Loren, I'm with them on this. If you want to raise your children according to your biblical beliefs or according to another religious set of beliefs, then invest in private school. There's lots of Bible colleges out there. But if you want to have your children in public education paid for by all of the taxpayers in the province, then that education and that curriculum is going to be that of the society where the taxes are being collected. It's going to be the legislation. It's going to be what happens in our society. And right now, and I hope forever, equity for gay rights and for inclusivity of all cultures and faiths is something that's a real priority in Ontario. So if you don't like that, then get out of the public system, go to homeschooling, find another school. But you can't ask teachers to stop teaching or tell you when to pull your kids out of class when they're talking about fundamental things like equity.
You've made a lot of points that I'd like to touch on. And first of all, in today's reality of schools, there are kids in school with two moms and with two dads. And certainly I would assume that those kids are made to feel somewhat awkward, and this is a good piece of education that should start at a nice young age. If we can remove the terms like indoctrination, and if we can also remove that this guy is religious and that the issue is in fact homosexuality being taught, that if we can just take a look at that teachers need to respond to their client, which is the kid, and accommodations are made all through the Hamilton school boards, as well as all through the province, for Muslim kids, for Jehovah's Witnesses. What is the difference when a kid is removed from the classroom due to a pre-negotiated parental issue? Whether it be whatever the topic is. If the parents object to it, then little Tammy or Timmy can be excused. It doesn't seem like a really big deal. And if the kids who are in the control of their parents, that you belong to your parents a whole lot more than you belong to your school board. Laura, moving a little bit further though, when you suggested this dentist should send his kids to a school that reflects his religious beliefs, absolutely, and that's something that John Tory was talking about 2 provincial elections ago, that Greek Orthodox is not Roman Catholic.
His voucher program that he was looking at.
Well, but it's not the same thing to suggest if you don't like the public school system, if you're Catholic, you've got a free option. If you're not, write that big check. And I don't know that there's any Greek Orthodox private schools in this neighborhood.
Which goes to the broader point, that if you want to go to the public schools of the society that you're in, then the way that society approaches education, the policies, the curriculum, the legislation that surrounds that education is what your child is going to get. And this idea, frankly, of saying to teachers, as I understand this letter said, and there are other groups that are pursuing this kind of similar correspondence with school boards, if it's touching on this, even environmentalism, which they see as deifying the planet, all all of these different topics are suddenly, I want to be able to pull my child out of that. How about just having an open mind and learning? How about being able to teach your child to have an analytical mind, to teach them how to filter information, bring it home and discuss it? This whole idea that I'm only going to subject myself to information that falls along with my narrow viewpoint on the world is the antithesis of what education is supposed to be about. Let your child hear it, find out what the discussion is going to be about, bring them home, tell them your side of it, and you can influence them from that point on.
And Laura,
this idea of cherry picking what your child gets to learn is not what Canada is about, and it is critical that we're talking about gay rights here, Loren, because the idea that a topic is going to come up and children whose parents believe that it's not okay to be gay are going to pull them away from their friends who might be living in gay houses or might be gay themselves, and they're going to feel ostracized. It is not going to alleviate the kind of marginalization of gay students. It's going to make it worse.
No problem. Then if we can agree on that, which I would with you, if in fact that no accommodations are made for other things either.
I agree. Then
there's no issue.
Let's actually use education for what it's meant to be, which is to stretch our minds and to teach us to think. Okay, let's move on to the next thing we want to talk about, and I don't know that we'll get along on this one very well. And that is, of course, the idea of rolling the dice, the big gamble here in Hamilton with the casino. Let's go to you, Loren. Let's get only the facts on this.
Well, there's been a lot of misinformation in what's actually happening. Or are we going to the
actually,
two-way?
You know what? We can do that. Let's do the two-way, no way, because this is another big topic, and they all involve downtown. So let's do this one.
A devastating loss for our downtown urbanist community. Two-way, no way. Councillors McCaddy and Farr moved to expedite the process of converting one-way streets to two-way streets. Well, it seems to be the new hot topic and what everybody's piling on. We must. If you are a downtown supporter, convert. It doesn't matter, just convert. And yeah.
The council didn't see it that way, right?
It didn't go so well,
Yeah,
no.
so Farr and McCaddy, if you want to keep going with this.
Sure. Well, Farr and McCaddy brought forth a motion to, as it says here, in 2003 and 2008. So the Transportation Master Plan has not really inched along as far as it should, and we've done some conversions. But let's be clear that James Street was converted when Mayor Wade was the mayor. I know Larry seems to think he was the mayor, but he wasn't. It was Wade. I remember the day when Bob Wade drove up and down the street and looked really confused as to what downtown Hamilton looks like, but that's a separate story.
You mentioned Larry Deani, our former host of this program. Hi, Larry.
Hi, Larry.
Okay, so you had councillors McCaddy and Farr go to council and say we want to expedite this. It's been part of the plan
Morelli
for years.
supported it fully as well.
Yeah, downtown councillors seem to.
Yes.
But I think part of the big issue on this two-way conversion is the fact that it was some of the arguments coming from the mountain and the suburbs saying, no, you know, we don't want to expedite it, we'll study this, but we don't want to rush the two-way street conversion downtown. And some people, myself included, felt frustrated a little bit by this because I believe that you keep our main arteries downtown one way only if you want to use it as a quick way to get from one side of the city to the other. It's not conducive to actually slowing down, safer neighborhoods, better for business. You know, I was on my business was on James Street South when it converted to two-way. And it worked great. People loved it. So it wasn't the big deal people said it was going to be, and it was good for business. Now, when I hear suburban councillors and mountain councillors talk about the fact that they want to be able to possibly keep those one-ways open, and I understand the rapid transit has to be factored into that, but it seemed as though, Loren, this was coming down the lines of, we like to use downtown one way, and you have downtown councillors and a lot of urbanists saying, but wait, we live downtown. We understand what we need down here for business, for safer streets, for more pedestrian foot traffic that's going to really revitalize the core. Now, I've never been on this program trying to reopen de-amalgamation and the great debate. I believe that we're healing as a city, but this particular vote made it look as though maybe the downtown is seen quite differently from people not living there. What do you think?
I don't want to defend what the councillor said, but I do want to defend the ultimate conclusion here. So until we know what's happening with LRT, there's no sense in converting Main Street or King Street, and there's no sense doing something twice. We don't know what's happening with LRT, and we can just chill out on that.
What about Queen, Cannon? I mean, there's a number of other streets that could be converted.
What McCaddy and Farr want is all of it. And the Durand neighborhood is a a crazy one way and can go here and can't go there. Well, you can't make all those streets two-way.
Yeah,
because
but I think they're talking about trying to get
okay,
some
no,
potential
and I'll get
going.
to Queen Street and
Yeah.
Cannon Street, but it's just in the Durand neighborhood and with all those one-way streets, it's not practical. Street parking is essential for all those giant mansions that are illegal lodging homes and illegal renters, and too many people have too many cars. And that still remains the reality even in our downtown.
Every single mansion in Durand neighborhood is an illegal house.
No, but I'm just saying, once upon a time it was built for one car, and now you've got a sixplex there and 12 cars. Anyways,
okay, but that's not what they're talking about. They're not talking about that.
In terms of Cannon Street, Cannon Street is used to a large extent as a way to get to Burlington Street, as a way to cut through the city. It is chock full of trucks. Where are the trucks going to go? And I'm not sure that the neighborhood that is affected by the highway that is Cannon Street now will be any happier choking on all the exhaust. We need to either make Burlington Street a lot more accessible and a lot more able to accept capacity. Plus, it really doesn't go from one end of the city to the other.
Do you know what I think? And we can maybe, as you said, you support the fact that council said, okay, well, we'll do a study on this. I support two-way conversion because I do look at other cities that have the two-way streets in their busy downtown areas, and there's a mix of commerce and foot traffic, and I think it's where downtown Hamilton should be going. We need pedestrian traffic, we need people living there, and with these big streets blowing right through the city, I don't think we're going to get there. So I do absolutely support where it's coming from, be it from the urbanists or the councillors or whoever, but you support it going to further study, so you agree with how council decided it. Do you think it's a little bit of the suburbs, though, saying, you know what, we're not really that invested in downtown renewal?
When the downtown councillors can talk to, look at what happened on James Street North, see two-way, and there's actually no historical correlation, as James Street South maybe was during Deanne's reign. But James Street North...
You must miss Larry, that's the second
time. No,
but
I just wanted to correct that. Maybe James Street, they didn't do all of James Street at the same time.
Right.
So everybody points to, look at the improvement based on two-way. Well, maybe the suburban councillors are suggesting, let's look at John Street, where nothing is improved at all. So,
but why do you think do you think that this vote has anything to say about the way that maybe the Mountain and some of these newly amalgamated parts of our suburbs in the city feel about the two-way streets downtown?
No, I have to believe that all councillors want a strong downtown. That is the face of all 15 councillors.
Okay.
Just because you don't agree doesn't mean there's some sort of...
Well, I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Come on.
And I hope you're right.
They're all good people.
It's got nothing to do with that.
No, but working towards the right goal here.
I don't know that they're all working towards the same right goal, which is why I'm asking the question.
Difference
is their
of
vision
opinion.
For downtown the same as the vision that people downtown have? That's
okay,
the question this is raising.
No, but let me get to this point, though. The urbanists, and I mean the Facebookers and the tweeters who are completely outraged.
Yes.
Well, it's not just their city and it's not just their downtown. And I'm not a downtown guy for the last couple of years. I was all my life, and the one-way streets frustrated me, and to some extent I agree. But then you need to elect the right people who feel your way. It still remains a democracy. And just because you had 80 people write a letter does not reflect a majority.
Well, I don't think that we know how exactly the people of this community
Well, let's
feel
put it to a referendum.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no. Let's ask Horvath if she'd like us to put it to a referendum.
Which is a perfect segue to our next topic, which is, and maybe we need a referendum on two-way, although it is part of the master plan for the city, so it's like we already think it's going to go there, it's just not getting there fast enough. Okay, let's talk about the next issue, which is the gambling issue. The idea of a casino could be the downtown core, could maybe be Flamborough Downs. We don't know yet, but what we do know are a couple of facts about it. So, Loren, why don't you tell us only the facts on the great casino debate, and then we'll get into it.
Gambling our future. Oh, that sounds ominous. Ontario Lottery and Gaming Commission, known as the OLG, is in talks with the City of Hamilton about a new casino, and that's only the beginning. There are 29 regions province-wide that have been allocated to be a casino district. The Hamilton and Greater Hamilton area includes Burlington. Burlington City Council said no thank you. So we are in a position to have a casino. Yes, we already have one, but it is only slots. And there is some debate as to whether or not we will have a full casino, and then subsequently where.
And of course, we've got Councillor Marula and NDP leader Andrea Horvath, who are pushing for a referendum on the issue. Last time we had a referendum on this issue was 15 years ago. Do you remember that, Loren?
I sure do.
And 60+% of Hamiltonians said, no, we do not want a casino. So that's where it was last time. Now, and I've got a piece on this in urbanicity because, you know, I feel passionately about this. I have all these years. Now that we're kind of addicted, if you pardon the expression, to that $4 million plus revenue coming out of Flamborough Downs that the city was sharing, if there's a possibility of getting a casino out there, I don't have as much problem with it as I do with having one downtown in the core. And part of what set off, I think, Marula or Andrea Horvath was it came out that Peter Mercanti was having conversations about a casino. And of course, as you know, because you're part of the HECFI bid that went in from Carmen's, Loren, the idea of, you know, conversation with Peter means it's probably going to be a downtown casino that they're looking at. And that got a lot of people concerned. My concerns on this are pretty clear. Hamilton has said it wants to be the best place to raise a child. Hamilton has a real struggle with poverty in our community. Putting a casino, even though I know you can choose to gamble or not gamble, may in fact make life worse for people who live in the core, people who are looking for a solution to their financial struggles, people who are vulnerable to a casino. I don't think it's going to help our city to have it down there. I think it will harm our city. And not one councillor, as I read it from their responses to the Hamilton Spectator, indicated that the city's vision to be the best place to raise a child had anything to do with their thinking on this issue. So if you're not going to use the city vision as a touchstone on a difficult issue like this, what's the point of having it? If you do look at the city vision, then you can't put a casino in our downtown core.
Can I tie this into the city vision?
Yeah.
So the best place to raise a child certainly includes being the best place to find well-paying union, province-wide union jobs in our downtown core that will provide you with suitable income in which you can raise your child. It's job creation and spin-off therein that you can tie this back to. We're not talking by any means here, I hope, about 6-year-olds going hungry because there's a casino. That is so illogical. There is no crime. There is no any of that.
First of all, it's not illogical. It's not illogical.
It doesn't make sense to me.
But not to you perhaps, but there's been lots of evidence and lots of studies and supporting both sides of this debate, which is why it might come to a referendum.
But Laura, it's like suggesting that...
It's not illogical. You're suggesting that good jobs are going to come in its industry for our core, and I'm suggesting, having worked when I did in Windsor when their casino came in, having been in other downtowns where there are casinos, it's not glamorous. What it tends to do is it tends to just take money from people who can't spend it and put them in worse situations.
But we already have all the social ills. We already have.
So we're just going to double down then? Is that the plan?
No, let's. if we already have all the trouble, why don't we also have the benefit? And the largest contingent at the Brantford Casino, which is not just slots, but is a full casino, is Hamiltonians. But we don't have the jobs there. And we don't have the tax base, and we certainly don't have the municipal kickback money.
It doesn't excite me to know that Hamiltonians are dropping their money in a casino.
But Hamiltonians like to gamble.
You know what? But let's find out. I'm all for the referendum tied to the election ballot, so it saves us some money, but it gets us the right answer. Okay, thank you, Loren.
It'll be too late if we wait till the referendum.
Well, we'll see. I don't think so. If they really want to put it downtown, I'm sure we'll figure out a way. Don't you remember Pan Am extended the deadlines like for 5 times for us? We'll get it done if we really want it, but let's find out what the people think. Loren, thank you. Before we go, though, let's end the show on a nice discussion on our way to goes. You want to start them off?
I've had a whole summer to choose from, but I was a little